breaking news that's coming in right now on the activists' arrest, the 5 activists that were arrested. That judgment as well is beginning to. We're now hearing the judgments from Dipak Misra, Justices Kanvarkar and Chandrachud. They have declined to interfere with the arrest of the 5 activists and refused to appoint the SIT, the Pune police, to go ahead with the arrest and the investigation. Vinay?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is not completely unexpected for the simple reason that usually Supreme Courts do not interfere with trial court matters. And if remember, the arrest of an individual and the production of an individual in a lower court is really a trial court matter. So usually in the past, Supreme Courts haven't interfered in that. If at all they've interfered only if the petitioners can prove that the act of arrest was a denial of my right to liberty, and then there was absolutely no prima facie evidence. Now, obviously, in this case, it means that the court believes that there was at least some prima facie evidence for the police to carry out the arrest, and that there was no real denial of right to liberty. And on the merit of the evidence or the merit of the investigation has been left to the trial court.
Absolutely. Meenakshi is standing by with the latest update. Let's just go across to Meenakshi. The Supreme Court says no case is made to say that the activist's arrest was made merely on the ground of dissent with the government. Even if the accused is not before us, the petition filed before us at this point. Let's just go across, Meenakshi. So this means these activists will be taken into custody and the Pune police will continue this investigation.
Well, indeed, Faye, and it is also the opinion of the majority in the Constitution Bench composition that the accused cannot choose which agency will investigate the charges against them. And what has essentially swung this against the activists and in favor of Pune police has been that sealed cover material which was submitted to the Supreme Court on the last date of the hearing, and subsequently the written submissions which further added credence to the arguments which were advanced by the state of Maharashtra Pune police. And this sealed cover envelope was not perused in the courtroom, but it was given to the Constitution Bench in order to establish the case that the material basis which investigations have been launched into their purported roles is something which is not flimsy or whimsical, but it is based on merit. And basis that this is the majority view which is emerging from the Constitution Bench. And remember, there was a lot of latitude which was extended in this case, not to mention the series of hearings which the Supreme Court conducted in spite of the case being pending in disparate forums, from the Pune District Court to district courts in Delhi, and thereafter even the Delhi High Court was approached. But in spite of that, the Supreme Court intervened in this case, which again was one very rare instance, and it was also argued in criminal cases for people to be approaching directly the Supreme Court, bypassing the lower court forums, the high court forums, would be setting a bad precedent. But in spite of that, they were given the reprieve of having this provision created wherein they were put under house detention / house arrest. So that was also a departure from norm, because the Supreme Court really wanted to apply its mind and peruse through all the evidences that were presented to actually see if there were any discrepancies in the provisions of CRPC at the time of arrest, or was the allegation indeed viable, where this larger argument was presented by top lawyers of the Supreme Court, from Prashant Bhushan, Abhishek Manu Singhi and others, where they questioned the action of the Pune police to say that this was a case pertaining to larger issue of individual liberty.
Meenakshi, I understand that one of the judges has dissented on this one particular point as well. Is it Justice Chandrachud? The information that I'm picking up is that there has been one dissenting judge.
With the arrest and subsequent investigations in their purported role, and it is the opinion of Honorable Chief Justice of India, Honorable Justice Kanvarkar and Honorable Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, who have declined to interfere in the arrest of the 5 activists, and have also declined their request to appoint a SIT.
All right, we'll come back to Meenakshi and check with that information a little while.
Yeah,
yes,
actually, it so seems, and I mean, I think this is something which we'll have to clarify again. It so seems that the Supreme Court has also said that they will continue to be in house arrest for 4 more weeks, and they'll be allowed this time to file a regular bail plea in the trial court. Now, we need to cross-check this. This is another. I mean, this is slightly different from what we've been saying, but it seems that the court has allowed the house arrest to continue for another 4 weeks.
In fact, some of the information that I'm picking up, we have Justice Chandrachud, who is in fact in dissent. He's dissenting with the other judges. He dissents with the majority. Technicality should not be allowed to override substantive justice, is what Justice Chandrachud is saying right now, and we're going to try and figure out more information on that. The initiation of Article 32 petition by petitioners is not motivated by political, reasons, is what Justice Chandrachud is saying. So the argument really here is, and what was brought before the Supreme Court is whether or not these arrests were made because they were dissenting against the government. Not whether or not the Pune police had enough grounds for arrest. Yes, so that's an important point to actually explain to our audience.
The entire argument that was being built was that they've been arrested for disagreeing, and that the right to dissent has been hampered by Pune police. And I think over the next few days, the Pune police and the other councils have tried to impress upon the court, which they've accepted, that this arrest wasn't exactly about a right to dissent. It was, the charges are criminal in nature, and whenever there is some prima facie evidence of charges being criminal in nature, being prima facie correct, Supreme Courts have rarely interfered.
Yes, I just want to correct some of the information that's coming to us. Justice Kanvalkar was reading out for himself and the Chief Justice, and we have here D.Y. Chandrachud, who's in dissent with the other two. It's a 3-judge bench. It's a 3-judge bench, so it's 2 against 1. And I just want to read out some of the things that are coming out. Accused persons cannot choose which investigating agency should investigate. That's Justice Kanvalkar. It is not a case of arrest because of difference of political organization. The petition is filed by next friend, not the accused. Investigating officers are permitted to continue with the investigation. This is the majority judgment between Kanvalkar and the Chief Justice of India, Dipak Misra. The Supreme Court rejects the plea of an SIT probe in the Bhima Koregaon case. The house arrest order for 4 weeks to approach the trial court for bail. And Justice Chandrachud, like I said, has dissented with the majority. He said technicality should not be allowed to override substantive justice. He said initiation of Article 32 petition by petitioners is not motivated by political reasons, and extraordinary circumstances are present in this case. This is Justice Chandrachud. We still have Ranjana Kumari with us, who's an activist herself. Ranjana ji, your reaction right now to, first of all, the arrest of these 5 activists and how this entire episode has played out, in front of the media, the press conferences that the Pune police has had, and now the Supreme Court, sort of remanding these 5 activists to another 4 weeks of house arrest.
Well, normally in such cases, I think Supreme Court does not really take a view in terms of, really deciding about setting up of SIT or any of those issues, because this is between the state and the individual. This has nothing to do with the political party in power or anybody. This was a kind of, they must have produced enough evidence for the court to go through the evidence. Whatever they've handed over to the court in terms of evidence for really giving rationale for this arrest must have been viewed by the court, and that must be the reason why the court has taken that view. But I do see a very big point in what the dissenting judge has said about the right of the individuals, and that's something which needs to be looked into more deeply. But as the law goes and judgments go, 2:1. So certainly this is what we are getting.
Yes.
In fact, the Justice Chandrachud, who dissented, has made 2 other points which we discussed earlier. And
the police press conference.
Yes, he says police briefing to the media has become a source of manipulating public opinion, and it casts doubts over the impartiality on the investigation. That's a very strong and a very powerful word, and that was something that was brought up earlier also.
Yes, in fact, I remember the day that the police actually had that press briefing, we found it not just out of protocol, but rather, extraordinary that they would have that briefing before they even presented that case before the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So that's what Justice Chandrachud is talking about again, and the fact that he's actually raising questions right now in in the impartiality of the investigation altogether. This would be important for any bail hearing that will now go forward into a smaller court.
Absolutely, and in fact his point of argument is the very reason why the petitioners have asked for an SIT, because they had questioned the impartiality of the police by saying that the way police is building a case in public, it does not allow my clients to have a free or a fair justice situation, because you've already prejudiced public opinion against my clients, and that hence you need an SIT which is monitored by the Supreme Court. So in that sense, this is where the dissenting judgment has made a very strong point.
Absolutely. We have Santhya standing by if we do. Santhya has been tracking this case from the very beginning. Santhya, so obviously there will be no SIT. The Pune police is going to continue to investigate this particular case. What update do you have for us from the ground, from the Pune police?
Faye, as far as Pune police is concerned, of course, it's a relief for Pune police because they were confident in the beginning itself. They have always repeated it. In fact, when they filed the affidavit also, they said that how all the evidences which were gathered by them spoke volumes about the involvement of all these accused who are now facing allegations of UAPA charges. So Pune police said that nothing of this was done in an unconstitutional way. The arrests were made in a constitutional way. If we talk about the situation on ground, as far as these 5 accused are concerned, all of them are under house arrest, and right now we are outside Vernon Gonzalez's house in Andheri. He's here inside with his family, and since the day the house arrest was pronounced for all these 5 accused, Pune police and Maharashtra police, Pune police and Mumbai police, cops from Pune police and Mumbai police were here on a 24/7 basis. And now when it's a setback for the activists, but Pune police is the one who is now saying that was exactly what we were saying since the beginning, whether it was about the letters which we recovered from the pen drives and CDs of these people, whether it was about all those messages they sent to each other, whether it was about the letter which specifically spoke about the assassination they were planning of PM Narendra Modi. Now Pune police is saying that exactly this is what we were saying, that how these people, we have sufficient evidences to prove that a case, that their involvement is there, and that's why they should be given the custody of all these 5 accused. And it's exactly 1 month ago these people, all the 5 of them were arrested after the nationwide raids.
Yes, in fact, Santhya, forgive me, I'm going to cut you short because we have more updates coming in right now from the dissenting judge, which is Justice Chandrachud. Extraordinary circumstances are present in this case. I beg your pardon. The media meet of the police casts doubt. He goes on to say serious doubts about Maharashtra police's investigation, and this coming from a Supreme Court judge should be very worrying. The conduct of the Pune police fortifies an impression that the investigation is not fair, and this is really important, Vinay, for a Supreme Court judge to say that he doesn't believe, he has serious doubts about the conduct of the police, the fairness of the investigation, the quality of the investigation. What would this mean going forward?
Well, I mean, just to add one more point to what you're saying, in fact, he's been as categorical as this to say that this is a fit and proper case for a court-monitored SIT, for all the reasons that you just read out, that this is exactly... No, going forward, it means two things.
Obviously, your information is faster than mine.
No, maybe it's just loading faster, but no, I mean, going forward, there are only 2 things now. The court has very clearly set out the process. 4 weeks' time, the house arrest has been continued.
Which gives them enough time to file a bail,
regular bail in a trial court. Now, in a regular bail application in a trial court, in case they don't get a relief, they'll have the option to go to a higher court, which is the High Court. So that process can be taken to the High Court also. But the procedure has to start from the trial court itself. So Supreme Court essentially has declined to interfere in the trial court's procedure. And usually Supreme Courts actually don't interfere in trial court procedures. They usually don't.
I'm just assuming that any sort of bail application put before any court at this point will just be a printout of Justice Chandrachud's observations.
Absolutely.
And that should do the
He's given them the grounds to file an appeal.
So, but also if let's just assume for argument's sake, you were at this point the Maharashtra Police DG, or the Home Minister of Maharashtra, in this case is Devendra Fadnavis himself, This would worry you as well about your police, wouldn't it?
I mean, the only thing I can say is that the
actually?
police forces in India are more thick-skinned than that. I mean, there is the number of times that they've been wrapped by Supreme Courts is countless. There is a pending Supreme Court order which hasn't been implemented on police reforms in as many years. So I don't think they're going to worry much about what the dissenting judge is saying, since the majority verdict is their favor. Having said that, the difference between a Supreme Court and a trial court is this. In a trial court, when you go and file an application, irrespective of what the Supreme Court judge has said, the trial courts will only examine the limited point of, does this case require police custody for further investigation and probe or not?
Right.
If the police can argue a case that there is a level of conspiracy for which I need his or her custody, the trial courts will be inclined to say so, irrespective of what the Supreme Court judgment, dissenting judgment is. Because their limited scope of operation is only on whether the police has a right to ask for custody to carry out investigation or not. That's it. That's where it ends.
In fact, Mandar Fanse standing by in the newsroom. Mandar, this is, while the Pune police will be happy to go ahead with this investigation, it's going to need to be a little careful given what Justice Chandrachud has said in the Supreme Court today.
Yeah, absolutely. But just to add to our discussions, Faye, basically, as we know, there is a parallel investigation also, which is happening right now with at the instance of the state government, who has already appointed retired Justice Jain Patel and the former Chief Secretary Sumit Malik, and who happens to be right now the Information Commissioner of State of Maharashtra. So obviously, these two people are rigorously sifting through various documents, and at the same time various instances prior to the Bhima Koregaon incidents, the violence which took place, and before that also how the Yalgar Parishad was also organized by various other organizations. This particular commission who's probing this matter is also very important as far as this particular probe is concerned, because whatever will be the observations coming in with this particular commission will also be very important when it comes to the rest of the investigations related to Bhima Koregaon violence. Apart from that, on the 3rd of October, this particular commission is also right now commencing the work in Pune, and they are going to call all the stakeholders who happens to be either the party in the Bhima Koregaon violence, or for that matter organization of the Yalgar Parishad. So obviously, as you are asking, this particular case, the investigation part from the Pune police, which has also in turn linked various intricate details of linkages of Maoist organizations and their various conspiracy theories will also be now probed by the Pune police. But of course, it will be very tough for Pune police now to go ahead with the investigations in a way.
And Mandar, from inside the Maharashtra government, have you picked up any intention there to set up an SIT, or do they intend for the Pune police to continue this investigation?
As of now, it seems that the investigation will continue from the police angle, and at the same time, the two-member commission, which is already in action right now, which was appointed at the instance of the state government, will also work towards understanding what exactly has culminated into all these things simultaneously, which has assumed that kind of a proportion of Bhima Koregaon violence, and at the same time the congregation of Bhima Koregaon and the veracity of the overall claims which were made by the various organizations, especially who were participating in the Yalgar Parishad, calling it as a 200 years back reference of that particular battle between the Britishers and the Peshwas, especially that battle which was right now politicized, and it was colored as a battle between the Dalits and the upper caste Brahmins. So,
yes.
So obviously this is all going to be probed.
All right, Mandar, many thanks for bringing us that update.